Hi, let us discuss today about the right ventricle. Right ventricle, as you know, it lies in front and to the left of the right atrium. So this right ventricle is situated in front and to the left of the right atrium. It is a venous chamber, I can say, which collects the blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle and ejects into the pulmonary trunk. Right ventricle forms most of the sternocostal surface, that means 2/3 of the sternocostal surface, and most of the inferior border of the heart. If you see on transverse section, if you see the shape of the right ventricle, this is left ventricle, this is right ventricle, you are seeing it from above. The right ventricle is semilunar in shape because this is the right ventricle which is semilunar in shape, because this is the interventricular septum which is convex to the right. The shape of the cavity of the left ventricle is circular, whereas the shape of the cavity of the right ventricle is semilunar in shape, because this interventricular septum is convex to the right. If you see the interior of the right ventricle, it consists of three surfaces. Sternocostal surface in front, this is a sternocostal surface in front, and we have inferior surface, this one the inferior surface, and we have the posterior surface which is formed by the interventricular septum. This sternocostal surface is related to the sternum and its corresponding ribs, thereby forming the superficial area of the cardiac dulles, and the inferior surface is related to the central tendon of the diaphragm, being separated by the pericardium, and the posterior surface is formed by the interventricular septum. Coming to the interior, now our topic is the interior of the right ventricle. This is the right ventricle and this is the right atrium. We have cut open the cavities of the right atrium and the cavity of the right ventricle. So this interior of the right ventricle, this is the right ventricle. It consists of basically two parts: inflow tract, a rough inflow tract, or ventricle proper. Inflow tract or ventricle proper, and outflow tract. This is outflow tract, this one is outflow tract, this is inflow tract. This outflow tract or conus arteriosus or infundibulum. Inflow tract and outflow tract. This is outflow tract, which is also called conus arteriosus or infundibulum. Okay. Between this inflow tract and this outflow tract are separated by a part called supraventricular crest. The supraventricular crest separates the inflow tract from the outflow tract. The blood from the right atrium passes through the right ventricular orifice to reach the apex of the heart, and from there the blood pumps into the smooth part or the outflow tract through the pulmonary orifice into the pulmonary trunk. So the flow of the blood, the sectors of the blood flow is going like this, thereby forming an angle, that is the flow of the blood is in the form of an obtuse angle. The blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle and from the right ventricle to the pulmonary trunk, the sectors of the blood takes an obtuse angle. Coming to the features of this inflow tract. Inflow tract is basically made up of two things: tricuspid valve complex, and trabeculae corneae. trabeculae corneae, tricuspid valve complex. This tricuspid valve complex includes the tricuspid orifice or right atrioventricular orifice, the tricuspid annulus, the tricuspid leaflets. These are the tricuspid leaflets. These are the chordae tendineae, tricuspid leaflets, the chordae tendineae and papillary muscles. So the tricuspid valve complex includes tricuspid orifice or right atrioventricular orifice, the tricuspid annulus, the tricuspid leaflets, the chordae tendineae and papillary muscles. Whereas trabeculae corneae includes ridges, like for example this one, supraventricular crest, bridges, this is a bridge which is septomarginal trabeculae, and papillary muscles. These three together are said as the trabeculae corneae. Now coming to the description part, right atrioventricular orifice. It is oval or circular in shape. The shape is dependent on in which phase of cardiac cycle the heart is. This right atrioventricular orifice conveys the venous blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle. It is oriented almost vertically oriented, making an angle of 45 degrees with the sagittal plane, and it is directed downwards, forwards and to the left. It is directed downwards, forwards and to the left. And this orifice is the periphery of the orifice contains a collagenous rim of tissue, and that is called as the tricuspid annulus. Along the margins of this tricuspid valve, we can see a rim of collagenous tissue, and that is called as the tricuspid annulus, which is usually arranged in the form of two rims, anterior rim and posterior rim, and each rim is called as the phyla coronaria. Phyla coronaria. So that is about the tricuspid orifice, and next one the tricuspid annulus. Coming to the tricuspid leaflets, this tricuspid valve is surrounded by three leaflets. That's why we are calling it as tricusp. Leaflets or cusps, both are same. So the right atrioventricular orifice, since it is surrounded by three valves, it is also called tricuspid orifice. If you see here, this is a tricuspid annulus, this one is a tricuspid annulus, and this complete portion is one valve, that is, this is anterior valve, this is septal valve, and this is a posterior valve. This completely is one valve. These are the valves. When we make it straight, it looks like this. Each valve is formed by the reduplication of the endocardium. Each valve is formed by the reduplication of the endocardium, and there are three valves which are anterior, posterior and septal valves. Anterior valve will be larger, septal valve is smaller, and the posterior valve is midway between the two. If you see this as the orifice, anterior valve occupies the anterior margin. Now anterior valve is somewhat attached, it is larger, and it is attached to this anterior wall is attached to the most of the anterior aspect of the tricuspid orifice, and the posterior valve is attached to the posterior wall like this. So this completely is the attachment of the posterior valve, and midway between the two, the smaller one, the septal valve is attached between the two. So the region between each valve, this is anterior valve and this is septal valve, and this portion we call it as anteroseptal commissure. This is septal valve and this is posterior valve, and this portion we call it as a posteroseptal commissure. Similarly, if you see it, when we make it straight, this is anterior valve or anterior leaflet, septal leaflet, posterior leaflet. So this commissure is anteroseptal commissure. Between anterior leaflet and septal leaflet is anteroseptal commissure. Between the septal leaflet and the posterior leaflet is posteroseptal commissure. Similarly, between anterior and posterior leaflet is anteroposterior commissure. So this each valve, if you see, I have said anterior valve, anterior leaflet is larger, septal one smaller, and posterior one midway between the two. Now, if you see the parts of each valve, it consists of basically 3 zones. This is a rough zone. So this is the tricuspid annulus. Then immediately to the tricuspid annulus, we find the valves being attached to it. So it is having 3 zones: a rough zone, clear zone, basal zone. A rough zone, the dotted ones here, a clear zone, and basal zone. Each valve is made up of 3 zones, from periphery to towards the annulus: rough, clear, and basal zone. The rough zone is thick and it receives the attachment of various chordae tendineae. All these are the chordae tendineae. We will talk later about this. Various chordae tendineae are attached to the rough zone valve. Clear zone, it is thinner, although I am showing it thick here, but in reality it is thinner than the rough zone valve, and no chordae tendineae are attached to this zone. This clear zone, you can see there is no chordae tendineae being attached to this zone. And the basal zone is again comparatively thicker, which is around 2 to 3 mm in size, and receives the attachment of this basal chordae. You can see the blue one here. These are the chordae tendineae extending from the ventricular walls. These are the ventricular wall, and gaining attachment from the ventricular walls to the basal zone of the leaflet. So the parts of the leaflets are rough zone, clear zone, basal zone. Rough zone receives many chordae, clear zone are devoid of chordae, basal zone receives the basal chordae coming from the ventricular valves. Is clear? So this is about the leaflets. Next one, we'll talk about the chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae are nothing but these are the endothelial lined collagenous threads which extends from the apical 1/3 of the papillary muscles, from the apical portion of the papillary muscle to the leaflets, which extend from these are the endothelial lined collagenous threads like structures extending from the papillary muscle to the leaflets, and are important in regulating the valve opening and closure. These chordae tendineae prevents the leaflet being drawn towards the right atrium, interior to the atrium, the leaflet being projecting into the interior of the right atrium. This chordae tendineae prevents, or indirectly this chordae tendineae helps in perfect functioning of the valves of the tricuspid orifice. So these chordae tendineae which extends from the papillary muscles are of different types. I can say they are commisural or cleft chordae. Commissure, already you know, commissure is nothing but the between the two leaflets, whatever the junction we are seeing, that is called as a commissure. That at the ventricular side we can call it as cleft. So those chordae which extends from the papillary muscle and are attached to the cleft. See this one, this is the cleft chordae or commissural chordae. This is the cleft chordae, or this one, cleft or commissural chordae. It's clear. So they are extending from the papillary muscle and they are ending between the two leaflets, hence within the commissure or the cleft, hence they are called as cleft or commissural chordae. Next one, free marginal chordae. See, this is a free marginal chordae which extends from the papillary muscle and are attached to the margin of the leaflet. By dividing into small branches, they are attached to the margin of the leaflet freely, hence called free marginal chordae. Third type I can say is this one, green here, rough zone chordae. You concentrate on the green one, rough zone chordae. They extend from the papillary muscle and they divide into three branches. One is attached to the margin of the chordae, margin of the leaflet. Second one is attached to the junction of the rough zone and clear zone, this one. Second one is attached to the junction of rough zone and clear zone. And the third one midway between the two. So one branch is attached to the margin of the leaflet. Second one to the junction of rough zone and clear zone. And the third one you can see midway between the two. This is rough zone chordae. Okay. Next we have deep zone chordae. Deep zone chordae. This one, this red one, which extends from the papillary muscle and they pass underneath the rough zone and is attached to the junction of rough and clear zone from under surface of the rough zone. That's why I have shown it here in the dotted appearances. Here you can see and here also you can see. They extend from the papillary muscle. They pass under cover of this rough zone and it is attached to the junction of rough zone and clear zone. That is called as deep zone chordae. And the last one, basal chordae, already we have talked about it, which extends from the ventricular walls to the basal zone of the leaflet. So these are the different types of the chordae: commissural or cleft chordae, free marginal chordae, rough zone chordae, deep zone chordae, basal zone chordae. All these are the chordae tendineae. Now let us talk about the trabeculae corneae. Trabeculae corneae is important, like it contains ridges. Trabeculae corneae contains ridges, bridges and papillary muscles. So trabeculae corneae, like ridges means these are linear ridge and the important one being the supraventricular crest. So this linear ridge called supraventricular crest, which separates the ventricle proper or the inflow tract from the outflow tract, deserves special attention because it is derived from the bulboventricular ridge. Embryologically, it is a remnant of bulboventricular ridge. So this supraventricular crest, it extends from where? From the ventral septal wall. That means this one. It extends from the septal wall on that side to the tricuspid orifice. So the extent of the supraventricular crest is, it extends from the septal wall to the right atrioventricular orifice, being derived from the bulboventricular ridge, separates the inflow tract from the outflow tract. Next type of presentation seen under the heading trabeculae corneae is bridges. So the supraventricular crest is forming a ridge, whereas another one which is a bridge which connects the two ventricular walls, and in between it is single, like it is suspended between the two ventricular walls, and that is septomarginal trabeculae. This one, this is a septomarginal trabeculae, which extends from the ventricular septum to the base of the anterior papillary muscle, which is connected to the sternocostal surface. To the sternocostal surface of the right ventricle, we find anterior papillary muscle. Along the base of the anterior papillary muscle, this septomarginal trabeculae extends from the sternocostal surface to the septal wall. This prevents the over distension of right ventricle. If the right ventricle cannot be enlarged much, because this bridge is connecting from the septum to the sternocostal surface. Hence, this septomarginal trabeculae is also called as moderator band because it prevents the over distension of right ventricle. Now coming to the papillary muscles, these are the conical muscles which are usually two in number: anterior papillary muscle, posterior or inferior papillary muscle. Sometimes a septal papillary muscle may also be seen. So this is anterior papillary muscle, this is posterior papillary muscle, and this one is a septal papillary muscle if present. Anterior papillary muscle is attached to the sternocostal surface, and from the base of it, septomarginal trabecula extends. Posterior or inferior papillary muscle is attached to the diaphragmatic surface. It is attached to the diaphragmatic surface or the base. Septal muscle, when present, is attached to the interventricular septum. Now there are numerous, from the anterior papillary muscle, chordae tendineae, this one you can see, it is attached to the anterior leaflet and posterior leaflet. From the anterior papillary muscle, the chordae tendineae is attached to the anterior leaflet and posterior leaflet. The inferior or posterior papillary muscle, the chordae tendineae is attached to septal leaflet and posterior leaflet. This is inferior papillary muscle. The chordae tendineae extending from the apical portion of this papillary muscle is attached to the septal leaflet and posterior leaflet. Septal papillary muscle, if present, the chordae tendineae extending from it are attached to the anterior leaflet and septal leaflet. So these ridges, supraventricular crest, the bridges in the form of septomarginal trabeculae and the papillary muscles are grouped under the heading trabeculae corneae. This is all about the inflow tract. This inflow tract is derived from the right part of primitive ventricle. Embryologically, the inflow tract develops from right part of primitive ventricle, whereas this outflow tract develops from the right part of bulbous cordis. Inflow tract from right part of primitive ventricle, outflow tract from the right part of bulbous cordis. Now coming to the description of the outflow tract, it is situated in front, above and to the left of the right atrium. It is smooth walled, it is truncated. It is also called as conus arteriosus or infundibulum. The blood from the right atrium enters into the right ventricle and then it is pumped through the smooth wall into the pulmonary trunk, and from the pulmonary trunk to by the pulmonary arteries into the lungs. So this outflow tract and inflow tract are separated by supraventricular crest, and the features in the outflow tract are only the pulmonary orifice, which consists of 3 cusps, anterior 1 cusp in front and 2 cusps behind, and this is a pulmonary trunk from where the venous blood is ejected into the corresponding lungs through pulmonary arteries. So this is all about the interior of the right ventricle. Thank you.